Hey gamers, Brent from shortpause.com, and we just got done watching both of the EA and Ubisoft E3 press conferences. Joining me again is Ben Boyce from shortpause.com. We're going to kind of talk about what we saw today out of both of the EA and the Ubisoft press conferences. We're going to start off with EA. Right out of the gate, I mean, they didn't hold anything back. They didn't show much either, but we finally saw the next entry in the Mass Effect series, but it's not Mass Effect 4 like we all thought it would be. It's actually called Mass Effect Andromeda. I don't think they didn't show much. I mean, it was a short trailer. We got to see a character. I don't even know. That's not Shep, right? Because I believe he didn't make it through 3, did he?
Well, if you notice in the trailer, that helmet never came off. So who knows
Oh.
who's underneath that helmet?
Okay. Well, I see how they set it up, but I mean, it wasn't. I thought we would see a little bit more, but no, we didn't get to see a whole lot. Just a trailer. I mean, did they even announce a time frame for the game?
Yeah, we got a window for it. We got holiday 2016.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
So
it did say holiday 2016. Okay, so
yeah.
it's a ways off, but
Mhm.
Mass Effect, the next entry does exist. It's called Mass Effect Andromeda, and I'm sure we'll learn more about it through the months ahead. Before, and I'm sure by next E3 we'll probably see some significant gameplay. So, Mass Effect Andromeda is a thing, and it's due
Another
out.
prediction.
Yeah, man, you're just killing it with your predictions, dude. You're killing it. I don't
Yeah,
think I've
buddy.
scored one yet. I'm still waiting on my Half-Life 3. Oh wait, that's Valve's not there.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
Moving on from Mass Effect, we got to see the new, some more of the new Need for Speed, the reboot we weren't really sure a franchise like Need for Speed needed, but nonetheless, it is coming. We got to see some gameplay. The sense of speed is alive and well in Need for Speed. The game, it featured some impressive visuals. The customization was incredibly deep, and just the typical high octane driving. I mean, what'd you take away from what you saw out of Need for Speed? Is this? I mean, do you notice anything that would categorize this as a reboot from what you'd played previously?
Well, I actually really liked the Need for Speed demo. I thought it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, while obviously Need for Speed isn't a franchise that you would typically reboot, I think what EA is going for here is they're just kind of taking the core mechanics that the franchise has developed over all of these different iterations, and they just want to they just want to bring this back to the basics of what makes Need for Speed great. So at this point, we've had Need for Speed Underground, Need for Speed Most Wanted, Need for Speed Carbon, Need for Speed Shift, Need for Speed, on and on and on and on. So they
Right.
want to kind of boil this down to just the core elements of Need for Speed and just make like a game that embodies kind of everything that they believe Need for Speed represents.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we kind of saw it in this game here. We saw the really cool customization, which looks deep, but also incredibly user friendly. I really like the system they showed. Looks like it's really easy to switch the tires or switch whatever you're looking to switch on there. So, really like that about the game. We saw like the underground car culture of like underground. They mentioned that like the big world of something like Need for Speed Carbon is available in this game, where the story elements are going to pull stuff from like the Most Wanted series. So they're kind of taking the core tenets of Need for Speed, boiling them down into like the ultimate Need for Speed game.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand what they mean by reboot in that perspective, from that perspective. And then and they mentioned this open world is 2 times the size of Need for Speed Rivals. So this is going
Wow.
to be a gigantic open world to drive around in. And yeah, like you said, the sense of speed, the lighting was really cool. These like night courses they're driving on. Excuse me. I love the way the cop lights were like flashing off your camera as they drove by. That was really neat.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, it looks like Need for Speed is alive and well. This what are we, November 3rd on the release date,
Yep.
and
November 3rd.
yeah, looks like it's gonna be a ton of fun.
Yeah, it does. I mean, like I said, I'm iffy when it comes to driving games. I enjoyed Most Wanted, and like you mentioned, it seems like they're taking all the best aspects of all the previous, Need for Speed games and just kind of pushing it into one big game. And if you're taking all the best elements of a franchise that's loved by a lot of driving enthusiasts, hey, it might actually turn out to be a pretty good game. So, Need for Speed, November 3rd, dropping on Xbox One, PC, and PlayStation 4. Next bit of news, we have something new here. Now, I have never played Star Wars: The Old Republic. I know you've got some interest in the game. Like you're always worried about it coming to consoles someday because you're not sure you'll play anything else. But it looks like we got a new expansion, Knights of the Fallen Empire. What did you take away from that video? Like I said, I don't know who these characters are. I'm not familiar with that franchise, but hopefully you can shine some light on this for me.
I mean, BioWare has always been interested in this time that takes place before the movies. So we saw it with Knights of the Old Republic, those two games that they were, well, I guess they made the first one, and then I think Obsidian made the second one. But they kind of created this game based in this universe, and now they have an MMO that's based in the Old Republic. So this particular expansion pack focuses on a couple of heirs to the Empire. They said there's two of them. Another incredibly cool trailer for these games. If you watch any of these BioWare Star Wars trailers, I mean, they're like movies in of themselves, and they're really awesome to watch. They're always entertaining. And like you said, man, this is a game I've always wanted to play. I'm just not much of a PC gamer, but the idea of a Star Wars MMORPG is dangerous. If I were to ever get involved in something like that, it's possible I would just play that exclusively, and I would never play another game again. But it's always something I've wanted to do. I know the game has had some issues. It's been out for a few years now. I know it launched with some issues and has gone through some growing pains, but it's got kind of a stable fan base now. And they mentioned this new pack, the Knights of the Fallen Empire, free to everyone. It's just kind of one of those things where they continue to kind of make up for some of the mistakes in the past with this game. So I think it's a cool gesture to give this pack, which is supposed to be a significant amount of content, away for free to all subscribers.
Well, for the sake of short pause in its content, I'm glad this game doesn't appear to be headed to consoles anytime soon. Our main editor not being around would be sort of probably kill the site, especially if my writing gets up on the site unedited. It's bad news. So
we'll just shut down tomorrow.
A new title, a new IP that was brought up during the EA press conference, a very unique looking game, very cute. We got to see Unravel, which seems to be like a puzzle platformer, and the protagonist is right up there with Sackboy in total in the terms of cuteness. What did you take away from Unravel? Your character you play as Yarny, who it looks like to be some sort of a doll made of yarn that uses the yarn to traverse across this world.
Dude, I love Yarny. Yarny's adorable. But like you mentioned, puzzle platformer, new IP. The creative director seems like a really genuine guy. I mean, he's really into this game. There's this whole deeper message behind it about unraveling and family and all this stuff that goes into the symbolic nature of this character that's made out of yarn. So there's this whole deeper narrative that goes on behind the scenes. But yeah, game looks really cool. It's all based around physics and puzzles and trying to figure out how to traverse areas and get from point A to point B. Your yarn is constantly unraveling as you go through the level. You use that as a mechanic to solve puzzles. Looks incredibly interesting. Looks like the kind of game that I would definitely get into. So I'm definitely interested to check this one out, man.
And you mentioned about the director, the creative director. I mean, when you watch these press conferences and you see some of these guys get up there really nervous,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're thinking, God, you can tell a difference. There's a difference between nervous, like my game sucks. Yeah, it's not that good, and I'm really I'm worried about what people think. But this guy, he was nervous, but I think he was more nervous about how much passion he has for the game. Like you can tell, he really loves this game. He really loves the character. He loves the concept behind it. So, no, I'm with you. Like Unravel looks really, really good, and I'm looking to get my hands on that right away. So, another game that we know Frankie is really excited to get his hands on is Plants vs. Zombies. Garden Warfare 2 was officially unveiled earlier today on Microsoft, but we got to see a little bit more gameplay today.
We saw no gameplay earlier.
Yeah, we just got just a mention of it, but now we
significant amount of gameplay on this.
Yeah, a lot of gameplay, and the game looks just as quirky and crazy as I've only played a little bit of Garden Warfare. I'm sure Frankie could speak a lot more about it, but no, it looked good. And now my understanding is this one, it's the zombies that are on the offensive.
Yeah. They mentioned that Dr. Zomboss, I guess, has figured out a way to overtake the plants, and he's trying to create Zomburbia or his
Zomburbia, I think is what it's called.
His ideal suburban landscape. So obviously, crazy story with these characters. Like you said, Frankie loves this game. I've never played Garden Warfare. I know you have minimal experience with it, but I guess it's got its fans, and it looks like quirky fun. They showed a 4-player co-op mode. They also unveiled 6 new character classes for the game. I like the zombie sniper. That guy was cool.
Was that the dude that got in the barrel and had it lit up and took out a whole group? Yeah, that was sweet. That was really cool.
Also the superhero class, the melee class, also really cool. Yeah, game looks really fun, and another spring 2016 title. So
yeah, and I think Frankie will be happy to know that they did mention that most of your progress
Yeah.
from your character in the first Garden Warfare. Should you have played a lot of it and you have, obviously ranked your character up, most of that will transfer over to Garden Warfare 2. So that's pretty sweet that they added that functionality to it.
Just to reiterate too, there's been no mention of anything exclusive with this game. So even though the first one came out on Xbox at first, this one looks to be day and date across all platforms.
Hey, that's awesome. Good news for for everybody on every console, because I know, like I said, you and I have very little experience, close to none, but there is a rabid fan base that loves Plants vs. Zombie Garden Warfare 2, both on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And if this launches day and date on all platforms, I'm sure everyone will be really happy about that.
I mentioned 6 million players. That's pretty impressive.
That's a lot of players. I wouldn't have never guessed 6 million players on Garden Warfare, so that's awesome. Sure. Now, this next section that we go into, it was kind of strange how they had this planned out. I mean, we'll just mention these games that were mentioned because, I mean, other than some features that they talked about, in terms of gameplay, this is basically, it went NHL 16, then it went NBA Live 16, which I told you during the live blog, as long as NBA 2K exists, NBA Live might as well just be a mobile game, for all I care.
They just keep beating this dead horse.
But then they make this segue into mobile gaming. They go from NHL and NBA to mobile gaming, where they talk about a Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes card game and a Minions Paradise, which is like a take on Sims, but with minion characters from Despicable Me. So, I mean, you've got this mobile gaming section. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there that probably like mobile gaming, and that's cool. And I can understand why they brought it up. But just the way they position this, and then as soon as they got done with that, they go back to FIFA. They have Pele on stage. Now, I love Pele. He's an awesome soccer player, one of the best of all time. But then he spends about 5 minutes or close to 7 minutes with Pele talking about the good old days or telling the story. We don't see any gameplay for 7 minutes. Now, look, if it's ESPN, that's one thing. You want to have Pele on and talk about something, that's awesome. This is a gaming press conference. 7 minutes without any gameplay or anything mentioning games that's called a lull, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah, it was painful, man.
But then, okay, we're not done with that. So we go from FIFA, where they talk about, after they talked to Pele, they actually brought up FIFA on the stage, and they showed some of the new changes that they're making to the game to make defense and whatnot much better and more realistic and what have you. But then we go into Mirror's Edge Catalyst, which looks freaking awesome. I mean, that looks really, really good. I don't know about you, but like I said, I didn't care for Mirror's Edge, the first one. But this one, this looks really, really good from what we saw. Obviously, there wasn't a whole lot of gameplay. I mean, I don't know if there were some snippets where I was like, is that gameplay? Or if that was just, a cutscene or pre-rendered. But overall, I thought it looked really good. What did you think of Mirror's Edge Catalyst?
Yeah, Mirror's Edge Catalyst looks freaking awesome. I mean, I actually think quite a bit of that they showed is actually gameplay. A lot of that parkour stuff where she's running through there, I think that was gameplay. But love the world of Mirror's Edge. I like the first Mirror's Edge. I've never actually beat that one. Something I'd like to go back through and play through one of these days. But I like they're telling the origin story of Faith in this. So it seems like we may even get to play her as early as when she was a little girl and kind of go through this whole story. One of the really cool things they mentioned is this sprawling open world, no loading screens.
That's nuts.
No levels, just this big free roaming open city that you can go through as you're playing the game. And the aesthetic, that kind of stark white aesthetic of Mirror's Edge with these splashes of color is alive and well in this game. So I really love the art design in this game. Has always been fantastic. So yeah, this game looks awesome. The parkour looks to be fast, looks to be really smooth and flowing in the animations. So and we got a release date too, February 23rd. So this is early next year. We're going to have our hands on this game across all platforms. And Mirror's Edge Catalyst, man, looks sweet.
Yeah, man. The early part of 2016 is starting to get pretty stacked.
Yeah,
it's starting to get really stacked with games. So Mirror's Edge Catalyst, like you said, drops February 23rd, 2016, coming up pretty quick here. Now, after we're done with that, we go back to EA Sports to finish up with Madden, as they talked about some kind of was it a live draft or a fantasy draft?
Draft champions. They choose this point to talk about Madden draft champions, which is where you draft your ultimate team and then you use them to play games in Madden. It's just like, all right, dude, seriously, like why are we continuing? Why wasn't EA Sports in their little section in the middle of the show, and then we move on and finish the rest of the stuff here? I mean, they drug this conference out way too long.
Right. Oh, they did, and especially in the middle section, it was confusing. It was just like, why are you going back and forth? I mean, you just drop mobile gaming in the middle of everything to slow it down. Then you bring Pele on to talk about his childhood or what have you for a good 7 minutes, and you're just like, this thing is derailed. This is derailed. And you mentioned in the live blog, you're like, I'm pretty sure gaming journalists don't show up to a press conference to hear Pele tell stories. No disrespect to Pele. Seriously, I think Pele is awesome. I've seen the highlights. He's an amazing player. This is the EA E3 press conference.
Dude,
Have Pele come out, wave his hand, say, here's FIFA 16, pow. Let's see a sizzle reel, let's see some gameplay. That's all we need for
that. The funny thing was, too, like during that extended Minions demo, there was a sinking ship in that demo as it like hit a rock and just started to sink. And I was like, that's totally indicative of this press conference right now. Because at that point, we had hit a rock and that ship was sinking fast. So it's like you did an extended demo for a mobile game at E3. It's like, come on, guys.
Right. There's got to be another venue for that other than E3.
Yeah.
But thankfully, all was not lost. We finally got to see some hardcore Star Wars Battlefront multiplayer gameplay. And dude, I know I can speak for you when that was easily the highlight of the EA press conference this year was Star Wars Battlefront. I mentioned this to you before the show. Some of those screenshots that we were able to capture off the feed look like movie shots.
Yeah.
I mean, the game looks phenomenal. It sounds like Star Wars. It looks like Star Wars. It looks like it plays like Star Wars.
Yeah.
You've got this huge battle breaking out on Hoth. You've got TIE fighters and X-Wings going there. I mean, it was just I can't get over how awesome that was. You know what I'm saying? It was just awesome. Like it just pulled me. I was like, this is Star Wars. And then the last part of the trailer, you see Luke Skywalker come on the field. He's using the push to push guys back, and then he starts charging ahead and like, what's he going after? And all of a sudden, you just see him. You see Vader on the battlefield, and you're like, what? And then they lock horns, and then it cuts away, and you're like, I want this game right now. Ben, tell me your thoughts when you saw it. Tell me you're on the same level with me, dude. This just looks freaking awesome.
Dude, it was a Star Wars fan's like wet dream. I mean, it was just like it was anything you could ever want as like a Star Wars fan. It's basically like they always mention Battlefront's kind of like the Star Wars toy box. So that's basically what it is. Like you got all your Star Wars action figures and you're creating this battle and you're like a part of this battle now, just this fantasy battle. You know, the mode we're watching is Walker Assault, which is 40 players in this mode. And the cool thing they were doing is they were switching between the Rebel and Empire forces as you're playing the game. So you kind of see things from both perspectives. So we see things like the Rebels are flying around in their jetpacks trying to blow up the AT-STs. And then we'll switch over to the Empire and they're walking in the AT-AT, just kind of taking the competition. Then we go back to the Rebels in the snow speeders, hitting the tow cables on the AT-ATs, bringing them down. I mean, this is like really cool stuff. It's like the Battle of Hoth is like playing out right in front of you, and you could be doing any number of different things. I mean, all those TIE fighters, all those X-Wings that are flying around, all these battles are happening all at the same time. And there's objectives in there that they were going for as well. And it was really cool. And then, that ending where, you know, they talked about these hero or villain characters that will hit the map at some point. It's unclear exactly what you have to do to get them on the map and how you play as them. But, you know, we see the guys, he's playing as the Rebel. And then all of a sudden, his partner across from him, he's like starts grabbing his throat. He turns around, Vader's standing right there. Then they flash over, and Luke's on the other side of the map. That he just wails through this group of stormtroopers. I mean, he like force pushes one guy, lightsabers another guy, blocks blasters back, back and kills the guys in front of him. Then he runs over, like you said, clash with Vader. The trailer ends, and you're just like, holy crap, that was freaking awesome.
Yeah, that was easily the highlight of that entire press conference. I mean, we've all been waiting and clamoring for some gameplay. EA delivered with some stellar gameplay.
Pre-alpha, too. I mean, that looks pretty damn good for pre-alpha.
Man, if that's pre-alpha, I don't know. I'm almost gonna call maybe bull on that because I mean, knowing it's EA, I could see them going, "Oh, put pre-alpha on there. They'll go nuts." So I'm not sure. I would, man, if it can look better than that, then we're in for a hell of a ride. When's that drop? November 3rd?
No, I think
Oh, it's the 17th.
it's like 26th or something, isn't it? Is it 17th?
Ooh, should probably check that out before we start
17th,
making
yeah.
updates. Comes out December 23rd, 2015. You heard it here first. No,
Yeah.
we'll get the specifics on that, but
June of 2016. You heard it here first.
we know about the delay that you don't know about. But no, overall though, I mean, what'd you think of EA's conference? I thought they started decent. I think they could have started stronger with maybe a little bit more about Mass Effect. The middle was just kind of hit and miss. You had some decent games there, but then the EA Sports and the mobile gaming and Pele kind of brought it down a little bit. But I mean, when you end on Star Wars Battlefront, I mean that's pretty much a home run. So I would say they did pretty decent. Definitely a step up from last year's debacle. So
couldn't go any lower than last year's.
No, you could not. So I mean,
Yeah.
overall, what were your thoughts on it, Ben?
Yeah, EA's conference was just okay. I mean, like you said, the beginning I thought was strong. Obviously, open with Mass Effect. We knew that was a thing, but we actually got to see it in action now. It's officially unveiled. We can start formulating our theories about it now. Discover New Galaxy was the only thing that was plastered across there. We saw the beginning, how that guy's like going through some of the different environments in the game, and then it blasts out to that big extended view of space. So you kind of get an idea of the scale that this game's going to be. So we got to see that. The Need for Speed looked really cool. You got Unravel and Garden Warfare in there looked cool in kind of the middle portion of the show. Then we hit the wall with the EA Sports and the mobile stuff. Just really went downhill. That section was way too long. A lot of that stuff's developer speak that nobody really understands. You talk about some of the different new systems you're putting in these sports games. Everybody's like, all right, whatever, dude, just get out of here.
Right.
We know you're working on improving the stuff. So, but then, some of the ending stuff, the Mirror's Edge, the Star Wars Battlefront was awesome. So it was just okay. There's some really good stuff. There's also some not so good stuff in there.
Right. Okay, good stuff. Well, we're going to jump over into Ubisoft. We've got about 20 minutes until the Sony press conference kicks off, so we'll just kind of go through Ubisoft here. There wasn't as much, but I mean, we did see some good gameplay. We'll start off with what I don't think anybody expected when Matt Stone and Trey Parker came out on stage and announced South Park: The Fractured Butthole. It's a RPG and similar to the Stick of Truth, but this time
direct continuation, I think.
Is it direct continuation of the Stick of Truth? But this time it's a spin on superheroes. So all the South Park characters are playing different forms of superheroes. What did you see, Ben? I mean, now you didn't play Stick of Truth, correct?
No, I haven't played Stick of Truth. Obviously, heard a lot of good things about it.
Oh, no, are you interested in this one? I mean, I know you're a huge comic book fan, and and you mentioned superheroes. There's got to be some level of interest there.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and Matt and Trey came on stage. One of the things that Aisha asked him was like, "You guys said you were never going to make a video game again," and they said that. I remember reading that, which is why this was shocking when this was the first thing that came out of this Ubisoft show. But they're like, I guess we were just spouting off at the mouth. So they got some ideas and things that they want to do differently with this one. So lo and behold, the fractured butt hole.
Those guys are so clever with words.
But that was a nice way to kick the show off, man.
Absolutely. But then it's the next game, the new IP that I think you and I are really excited about, For Honor, which seems to be somewhat of a what they demoed was a 4v4 multiplayer game that's focused mainly on melee combat. Takes place in this like dark fantasy medieval times era. What did you think? I mean, for me, that looked like one of the best like melee combat fighting games. Normally, if you see games with swords and stuff, it's hard to get that to work. This looked totally awesome.
Yeah, dude. The thing starts here. There's like this large scale war. Looks like something out of Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings. These like giant armies are rushing at each other, and they clash in the middle of the map. And then there appears to be a bunch of AI enemies kind of scattered into these armies. So the match we watched, the guy took out some AI enemies. Then he came across a player enemy, and then this kind of became a strategic sword battle at that point. So and that looked awesome. How they're like parrying and swords are climbing. It looked like any sword battle that you would see in something like Game of Thrones or like your favorite fantasy movie. So these real intricate sword battles, and then they would just find the right place to strike. then they'd like chop the guy's head off or deliver the fatal blow. And yeah, it looked super cool, man. If that thing works like it looks, that's going to be a ton of fun.
I tell you what, if we didn't see Doom's melee system the night before, I probably would have been really impressed with the melee kills in For Honor. But no, that game looks really, really good. Make sure you check out the Ubisoft video on the site. We'll have it right next to this reaction video. Once we get that page set up, just look to your left, and that's where you'll see the Ubisoft video. Make sure you check out For Honor. It's like the second game they show in the video. It's really, really good. Up next, they just kind of briefly mentioned this. It was a short mention, but man, it was hilarious. Trials Fusion Awesome Level Max. Now, if anyone's played Trials Fusion, immediately think it's motorbiking on these crazy tracks. We do these crazy stunts. Dude, all we saw in this trailer was a cat on a unicorn that breathes fire, surrounded by like triple layer rainbows.
Dual pistols as he's riding this unicorn.
I don't know what this is or how this is going to work in the Trials Fusion type, that type of game that it is, but I am interested because, again, I repeat, it's a cat dual wielding pistols on a unicorn that breathes fire. If that isn't badass, boys, I don't know what is, dude.
I don't know what either, dude. Like I want that like as my avatar now. That cat on the unicorn, like that needs to be my avatar now.
Hell yeah, that just looked interesting. I'm curious to see what that actually looks like in game. So we'll have to wait till we hear more about that. Like I said, all they mentioned was just Trials Fusion at Awesome Level Max. We didn't get to see too much more of it.
I think it's coming soon.
July,
maybe?
It is supposed to come soon. So I'll definitely check that out just because, again, you're a cat dual-wielding pistols on a fire-breathing unicorn. Give it a look-see. Trials Fusion Awesome Level Max.
Yeah.
Now the next game, finally, talked about it right before the show in the live blog. I was like, can we please see some more concrete Division gameplay? And man, we got some good gameplay from the Division.
Good stuff, man.
They announced, they talked about the Division, and then they mentioned this new area called the Dark Zone. That it's on a map, and it's almost like a no man's land. Like you go in there, you don't know what to expect, you don't know who's going to be in there. It's just I think it's almost like it's randomly generated what you're going to find when you go in there. And it sounds like it's a good area to collect a lot of loot.
Yeah, they mentioned the best loot.
Yeah, the best
Dark
loot.
Zones.
Yeah, so it sounds really interesting, but the gameplay looked fantastic. I mean, that game is shaping up nicely, and we did get a release date. We got, what was it, March 6th?
March 8th. 2016.
March 8th, 2016. So we have a release date for the Division.
Spring title.
Right, exactly. I can't wait to see it. That'll probably be like Uncharted 4 will be that day. I don't even know. But what did you take away from the Division gameplay? I mean, I thought it looked phenomenal. It looked tactical. The different types of devices that you get to use, the equipment you get to use looks pretty sweet. Overall, what were your thoughts on the Division?
I love the concept of the Dark Zone. They mentioned this is an area where PvP opens up and it's a seamless transition from the game you're playing. So you're in the middle of this MMORPG and then you step into these zones that are designated Dark Zones. And like we mentioned, that's the place where you're going to get the best loot, but PvP scenarios open up. So you can come across player characters. You can choose either work with them or to fight against them. And we watched that kind of play out in the demo they showed. They showed a couple of the teams working together to take down some AI opponents and collect the loot from that. We also mentioned a couple of those teams go head to head, kind of take each other out, trying to steal each other's loot. Right. So that's a cool system. It's like this dynamic PvP system that changes. You don't really know what's going to happen or who you're going to come across and if they're going to be friendly or if you might need their help or what. So that sounds really awesome. And the concept of the Division, it continues to be lofty and ambitious and something that I really hope works out because I just keep thinking of if The Last of Us were a MMORPG third-person shooter game, it would look something like The Division probably. So, I really want this game to work and be good. But, everything we saw today looked really cool.
As you mentioned, it's weird. You talk about how trying to figure out who's friendly. Even your friends can screw you over in the Division, as we saw in the gameplay video. You got this team. They work together. They go in there. There's this NPC team. They're like, okay, we got to take them out for the loot. Another team of live action players, like real life players, show up. They decide not to attack one another. They work together to take down the NPC squad. They move on to the regional objective. As they're there, they take out the smaller squad that decided to join but didn't take them out earlier. And then at the very end, a guy on the main squad kills his two partners and gets away with all the loot. I'm like, What? It just, yeah, it sounds awesome. You're going to want to keep your guard up. You're going to want to know who you're with and whether or not you can trust them. Like you said, man, you got to really figure out who's friendly and who's not in that game.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. So good stuff on the Division. March 8th, 2016. Finally, we have a due date.
Have a release date.
Yep. Next up, we'll just talk about this briefly as neither of us are familiar. Apparently, this is a franchise that's been around for a while, but Anno, which is like kind of a sci-fi city builder that takes place on both Earth and the Moon. Looks like you have to earn the right to go up to the Moon to work there. Like you have to perform well on Earth. That's my understanding. But I don't know much about city builders. I don't know what your take is on it. I thought it looked interesting, but obviously I don't think it's anything I'm going to jump into right away.
Yeah, it's a beautiful looking game. Looks to be a SimCity-esque kind of game. Like you said, it's not a franchise we've played, but I guess it's been around. And if you're into city builders, looks like this one could be cool.
Absolutely. You know what's cool is Rainbow Six Siege has Terror Hunt.
Yeah.
Ubisoft today announced that Rainbow Six Siege Terror Hunt returns, which is a cooperative mode where you take on a certain amount of terrorists, whether you have to eliminate everybody. But in this gameplay, we actually had to do a bomb defusal. The gameplay looked intense. I mean, the level of communication needed looks incredible. The gameplay looks taut. I mean, everything about this game just screams tactical shooter. And you know me, man. If it's tactical, if you die and you're out, that's my jam. Anything that's reminiscent of the greatest game ever, SOCOM 2. That's what it reminds me of. It's round based, no respawning. I mean, if you go down unless somebody revives you.
Yeah.
Like I said, intense gameplay overall. Angela Bassett will actually be starring in the single player portion of it. She'll play as Six. What'd you think of Rainbow Six, man?
I'm with you, man. Everything you said, I agree with. It looks really awesome. Just that whole sequence in the beginning there where they're just communicating like how they're going to infiltrate this building. They're like calling out the shots as they put the silence shots into these terrorists as they're trying to make their way into these building, into this building. They're trying to move in silently and trying to move into where the bomb is at. So tons of tactics. They're like blowing holes in the walls, cover firing as guys move around to try to get around to the bomb. Lots of different tactics and options that are available on these maps, obviously. So, like you said, this looks really awesome, tense, very team focused, lots of communication necessary for success. So definitely anxious to get my hands on that one, man.
Yeah, that looks it looks really, really good. Now, the next game that they showed, you and I thought it was interesting. For a Ubisoft press conference, you knew Assassin's Creed Syndicate would be there, but the capacity of which it was there was kind of odd. I mean, all we got was basically a little bit of a trailer and then some cut scenes where it kind of explains the character and the story, but that's all we really got. I mean, for a game that's launching in presumably 5 months or less, 4 months, you would think we'd see some gameplay, but you and I are both maybe in the same mind, thinking that maybe we'll see that tonight at the Sony press conference, maybe like a gameplay reveal, along with we're thinking Call of Duty. So, I mean, from what you saw from the trailer, did you take anything from it other than it looks good trailer-wise, or what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all we can take from it. I mean, the game's ready to be played. The guy mentioned it's on the Ubisoft show floor. It's at the booth in playable form on consoles. So it's got to be something where Sony has made a deal to world premiere the gameplay or something at their conference. So I would imagine that we'll see that here shortly at their show.
Yep. And that actually starts in 13 minutes. So we're going to wrap it up with one more thing that they mentioned. Ubisoft did we got one more thing to show you. And at first, they were talking about that this is a franchise that they're bringing back, that they want to revive a franchise. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, maybe this is Splinter Cell. Maybe this is another Splinter Cell. Maybe it's Blacklist. I didn't know what to think.
Did you know what it was when they were doing it?
At first, when they first started showing it, just by the gameplay, immediately I was like, this looks like a Ghost Recon game. And they're talking about previous franchises. I couldn't think of anything else other than Ghost Recon. Yeah. It's only different because most Ghost Recon games are military focused.
Highly militarized.
Yeah, highly militarized. This one almost looked like you're mercenaries.
Yeah.
Taking on jobs throughout this vast open world that looked gorgeous, by the way. I mean, it looked like a world like you would see in Far Cry. It almost looked like a Far Cry meets Ghost Recon with the tactical gameplay, but you're a mercenary with maybe you're outside the lines of military law. Like you're just kind of like doing whatever you want to do. The game looked beautiful. It's called Ghost Recon Wildlands. It's an open world game that kind of focuses on the as you mentioned, the grimy drug world.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I don't know. It looked interesting. It just, for a Ghost Recon game, I was like, whoa, this is different. It's definitely a different type of Ghost Recon game.
Yeah, I had no idea, man. I'm watching this thing and I keep trying to piece. I'm like, what franchise does Ubisoft have that this fits into? And I kept thinking, I was like, well, no, Just Cause is Square, and I'm like, well, no, it's not that. Not Call of Juarez, maybe. I don't know. But I'm trying to figure out what franchise this is. And then when Ghost Recon came out, I was like, whoa. I mean, yeah, this is an extremely like gritty title. I mean, we're watching this guy who's like pinned to this table with knives stuck in him. There's this tattooed, this like beast of a man who's got skulls tattooed all over the back of his head. He's, I guess, the head of this drug cartel, and he's beating this guy for information or whatever's going on
Mercilessly, mind you.
Yeah, but there's like
this guy's
really,
a wreck.
Yeah, there's like some really dark stuff that's going on in this trailer. I mean, there's all kinds of drugs and blood and just a really just grimy, gritty world. And like you said, there's like mercenaries. They're skydiving in. They're in this kind of like dusty open plain. Yeah, I couldn't piece Ghost Recon at all from that. I just, like you said, it's just that's always been a franchise. It's so militaristic, and the last one we saw, Future Warfare, whatever that one was,
Future Soldier, yeah,
Future Soldier, yeah, that was futuristic, high tech, like military stuff. So yeah, I don't know what to think, man. Like you said, it looks like it could be cool though.
Yeah,
really cool, really cool.
No, yeah, I'm excited for it because, I mean, like I said, that was the first thing I noticed was the gameplay. I was like, man, just the way the characters were moving, like the military style of everything. I was like, man, that's very reminiscent of Ghost Recon. But I was like, man, are they really departing that far from the norm that the franchise is known for? Like you said, it's mostly a military focused game. This one looks like it has those elements, but it looks like it's a bit of a departure. One that I'm definitely open to because it's open world with a lot of contracts out there. As it backed away at the end of the trailer, you can see contracts all throughout this world. So it looks like there's going to be a lot to do. We got to wrap this up. We got 10 minutes till the Sony press conference. Ben, overall thoughts on Ubisoft?
Overall, I thought it was a good show. There was a few lulls in there, like the Just Dance stuff. And one thing that's cool about Just Dance, though, that Just Dance Unlimited that they have, which is a streaming service that you can sign up for the new Just Dance game, and it kind of lets you pick from all of these tracks that you can stream at will, and it's almost like a Netflix for DLC for this game.
Yeah, and no, that sounded very cool.
Yeah, like I'd like to see that system in something interesting that I want to play, like Rock Band or Guitar Hero. Like you can imagine if they had like a streaming service for that, it would be really cool. But yeah, so they had some some weird stuff in here with the Just Dance and some of the other lulls that they had in there. But overall, it was actually a really good show. Showed some cool games in there, some stuff we didn't expect, like South Park, Ghost Recon, For Honor, like some good surprises in there. Obviously would have liked to see the Assassin's Creed footage in there as well. So that was kind of weak. But overall, it was a pretty decent show, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought it was a strong show. With the exception to Just Dance. I mean, that's just something out for me. Make sure you stay tuned to shortpause.com. Frankie will no doubt have a hands-on impressions piece, and he'll cover the game for months ahead. So don't worry, we'll be Just Dance Central with Frankie Ayler covering everything there is to cover with Just Dance because he is such a huge fan of the franchise.
Absolutely.
That'll wrap up our reactions video to both the EA and the Ubisoft press conferences. Sony's press conference starts here in 8 minutes. We'll have another video up after that. For Ben Boyce, I'm Brent Felsing. Thank you again for tuning into this live stream. We'll talk to you in about 2.5 hours. See you guys.
Thanks, guys.